All right, welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? We are living in a world that is frankly overwhelming. It's incredibly fast-paced, and let's be honest, it changes in the blink of an eye. Jobs shift overnight, technology completely dominates our attention, the cost of living goes up and down. It feels like we wake up in a brand new world every single morning. And the problem? Well, our rigid, linear plans usually end up trapping us. We get stuck trying to navigate all this unprecedented chaos using these really old, inflexible strategies. So I want you to really think about this for a second. Are your carefully laid plans constantly failing the moment some unpredictable change hits your career or your personal life? We have this habit of taking what we did in the past, putting it right in front of our faces, and just calling it the future. But in a landscape that's shifting this fast, if you treat life linearly, you're basically making daily decisions based on maps that are already totally outdated. It's a trap, and we fall right into it time and time again. It reminds me of that famous Albert Einstein quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Consider this a bit of a wake-up call for us. Dealing with the sheer complexity of modern chaos, it absolutely requires a fundamental shift in how we process information and interact with the world around us. We literally need a whole new way of thinking. Section 1. Enter the nomadic mindset. Okay, to really understand the kind of shift we need, we have to mentally travel far, far away from our typical urban bubble. Picture the freezing winter chill of Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. This is where we meet Bindaria, a young student who was feeling completely trapped by city life. She found herself just longing for the vast, ancient freedom of the steppes and the massive rolling dunes of the Gobi Desert. And she realized something huge. True agility, true adaptability, requires the expansive, wide-angle viewpoint used by her nomadic ancestors. Because think about it, when you're completely tangled up in the narrowness and the stress of daily urban life, you can't see the forest for the trees. You desperately need that vast perspective of the nomadic lifestyle just to see the possibilities that are hiding right in front of you. Now, this brings us to executive coach and author Kevin Cottom. He was actually sitting across from Bindaria in a cafe when she dropped this explosive core insight on him. She told him that the absolute secret to the nomad's survival and freedom boils down to a simple yet incredibly profound philosophy. And it's this: they think fastly, act narrowly. For Cottom, this was a massive light bulb moment. It's this brilliant dual mindset that just perfectly addresses the modern challenges we're all facing today. So let's break down how these two sides actually work together. First up, thinking vastly. Imagine you're standing at the very peak of a mountain. You're taking in this breathtaking 360-degree global viewpoint. You're gathering all the possibilities, all the perspectives, all the ideas, and you're doing it without any judgment. But here's the catch. You can't stay on top of the mountain forever, right? Once you've surveyed the landscape, you have to transition to the second part. You must act narrowly. And this means completely disentangling yourself from all the noise, making a highly focused, localized decision, and executing it with rapid, targeted movement straight toward your destination. Section 2. Navigating the shifting sands. To see what this looks like in action, let's jump from the frozen Mongolian steppes over to the blistering heat of the Sahara Desert in southern Morocco. Here we meet Saeed Zaki, who is a proud Berber nomad. Now, Saeed looks at his constantly changing environment, the moving dunes, the wild, unpredictable weather, and he doesn't see it as a threat at all. To him, it's an endless sea of opportunity, and he shares this absolutely brilliant piece of wisdom: modulate your life to the sand. Because the sand is literally always moving, right? It's constantly creating uncharted territories. So a nomad never settles for too long, just long enough to reap the harvest. Trying to resist an environment that's shifting underneath your feet is just futile. True survival means flowing right along with it. But practically speaking, how are they actually doing this out there? Well, Syed explains that to survive in uncharted territory, nomads have to tap into what he calls their inner GPS. And doing this requires some rapid mindset shifts. First, you have to be completely still, you remain highly alert, you actively listen. By doing this, you start to observe these tiny, tiny signposts. Maybe it's a slight shift in the wind or a faint track in the sand, things that everyone else just completely misses. Staying flexible and adaptable is what allows you to recognize those small windows of opportunity, even when the environment around you is incredibly turbulent and confusing. Section 3. Using compasses over maps. All right, bringing this back to us. When we're trying to navigate our own unpredictable modern lives, what tools are we actually relying on? Joy Ito, the former director of the MIT Media Lab, has a fantastic principle for this. He argues that in an increasingly unpredictable world, one that is moving at lightning speed, a detailed map is actually a liability. Think about it. A rigid map might lead you deep, deep into the woods at a massive cost simply because the terrain has already changed since the map was drawn. But a compass, which is powered by your intuition and your curiosity, is purely directional. It guides you safely through uncertainty, making sure you always know your true north, even when the path right in front of you completely disappears. And this idea beautifully connects to the work of the renowned psychologist Abraham Maslow. He pointed out something absolutely crucial. The world isn't static. It's constantly in flux. He wrote, "Habits are positively a hindrance when the organism has to deal with the changing, fluctuating aspects of the world." So relying on their old habits is literally like trying to use that outdated map. When we're faced with totally unique, novel problems, our habits fail us. We have to lean on that nomadic adaptability. Section 4. The champion's narrow focus. Okay, so we've spent some time talking about the vast philosophical thinking, right? The compasses standing on the mountains. But how do we actually funnel that down into the narrow execution phase? Let's take a look at how high-stakes performers act narrowly when everything is on the line. Take cricket legend MS Dhoni. He is famous for his incredible composure under immense pressure. Now, physiologically, when fear or intense pressure hits, our breathing gets shallow and our heart rate spikes. It's natural. But Dhoni's immediate narrow action, he intentionally takes control of his breathing. He takes his time to exhale, brings his heart rate down, and completely grounds himself in the immediate narrow present. When he is executing under that kind of pressure, Dhoni absolutely does not worry about the vast picture. He's not thinking about the final score of the game. Instead, he narrows his focus strictly down to what his team needs in that exact localized moment, say scoring 30 runs in 15 balls. That's it. He completely ignores the surrounding noise. He approaches his career 1 year at a time and his daily life 1 day at a time. If they lose today, his only focus is simply to correct today's mistakes tomorrow. That right there is the absolute epitome of acting narrowly. It perfectly echoes the legendary basketball coach John Wooden. He lived by a credo that I think captures this nomadic duality flawlessly. He said, "Learn as if you were to live forever, live as if you were to die tomorrow." Just think about that for a second. You gather your skills vastly, you're preparing for this infinite future, but you execute narrowly and urgently, focusing entirely on the impact you can make today. Section 5. Activating your inner GPS. So the big question, how do you actually build this vast to narrow funnel into your own daily rhythm? How do you activate that inner GPS we've been talking about? Well, Kevin Cottom suggests a really effective daily timeline. Try this. In the morning, literally stand with your arms wide open. Mentally look at your day from that vast mountaintop perspective. Then, midday, when you're starting a work project, begin wide. Gather all your plans, your resources, your ideas, and don't edit yourself. Just get it all out there. But then, as you move into the afternoon, it's time to tunnel in. Narrow your focus tightly into executing those specific meetings and having highly present, focused conversations. Start fast, end narrow. Which brings us to our final, compelling thought to leave you with today. Look, the world isn't going to slow down anytime soon, and the sands are definitely going to keep shifting. So the real question is, how will you step back and view your next major life decision? It is officially time to toss out those outdated maps, embrace the shifting sands, and start trusting your nomadic compass. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I challenge you today. Think vastly and act narrowly.